So today we're going to be talking about 6 common budgeting mistakes and how to overcome them. So as a financial coach, we've seen these 6 common mistakes repeated over and over again. These are the mistakes that are often missed because they're not the flashy part of the plan. They don't focus on the reward. They're the understated truths that will cause our plans that are even created with the best intentions to fail if we don't find a way to overcome these issues. So what are these 6 things we're seeing over and over again that we can help you guys to create the plans that are going to work for you? So the first one we see is not actually having a written plan to follow. The second one is not aware of our spending or our financial habits. Number 3 is we set these unrealistic expectations because, of course, we want everything, all these financial problems to go away as fast as we can, and we want things to happen quickly. But maybe we put ourselves into debt and it took time, so it's going to take time to get ourselves out. We need to underestimate, we tend to underestimate expenses of maintenance costs. Like, for example, if we have a car, we're not just talking about the cost of the car. There's maintenance and tires and brakes and all kinds of insurance, and there's maintenance costs for everything you plan to buy. Number 5 is not planning for the occasional expenses. And these are this is the expenses that only happen every so often. And because we don't typically prepare for them because they're not part of our monthly expenses or monthly income, this is where we find most of all of our credit card debt. So I really want to spend some time working on that issue today, is not planning for the occasional expenses. And the last thing we want to talk about is the lack of communication. Now, this is a life-changing skill when it comes to finances, and I'm going to save it for last. But I want you to notice the first mistake that's on the list is not having a written plan. So let's go ahead and start there. And like I said, I was going to call you guys out a little bit, ask for a little bit of feedback. Does anyone want to share right now? Does anybody have a written plan that they use and follow for their finances? As I said, you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. If anyone wants to share something that they have.
I can chime in really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a written plan, but it's not long. Would just be like rent, make sure that my kids have what they need. My budget changes monthly, mainly because life, I could be short or I could be over budget. It just depends. But definitely rent, food, and as long as my kids have what they need during that month, that's kind of what my list looks like. But I am looking to kind of make it a little bit more systematic, if that makes sense, which is why I'm here today.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Rizzy. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? And Rizzy, you mentioned kids. So yes, whenever you have kids, there's so much uncertainty. And even I teach this all day long, and I'll share later. But yeah, when my kids get to a certain age in the next grade level, there's just all kinds of unexpected things that come up, and you just have to be flexible and adjust. All right. So with that, the first one is not having a written plan. It's the very first mistake. So whether you're trying to get a better grip on your finances or boost your savings or simply just get an understanding of what's going on with my money, there's no better tool than a budget. And for some of us, the word budget makes us feel kind of uncomfortable. Some people don't like to use the word budget the same way they don't like to use the word diet. It feels restrictive. It's being told you can't go do something. You shouldn't go out to dinner or go to the movies or have fun or go on vacation. But today I want to challenge that thought. What a budget is for me is giving myself permission to spend and have fun, guilt-free, while still accomplishing my goals. And I think Rizzy also said that very well. So I like to say it again. If your budget's not set up in a way that makes you feel good and secure and powerful, then we all know where that plan's going to end up. It's going to end up in the trash. So let's make sure we're setting up financial plans that put us in control, that we're using our income to help create the future we want. So let me give you an example of why having a written plan is so important. There was a study done where participants were split into 3 groups to see what keeps people committed to their exercise routines. Participants in all 3 groups were given one simple task, and that was to exercise at least twice a week. Well, the first group was dismissed, and groups 2 and 3 were led into a room where they provide all kinds of benefits of exercise, how it maintains a healthy heart and provides energy and clarity for the mind. And the second group was dismissed. But the third group was asked to do just one additional task. And before the week began, they were to write down the time and location in which their workout would be completed. So they were to have a written plan for the workout. So I'm going to ask you guys, after 2 weeks, can you guys guess, what do you think that first group who was simply just told to work out twice a week, what percentage of that group do you think completed their workout routine? You can put in the chat or just answer if you think you might know. Andres, you can guess too if you want. Well, I'll tell you, only 35% of that group who was just told to simply work out twice a week, that was their simple goal, accomplish a goal. Interestingly, even after given the knowledge and the benefits of exercise, the second group just scored slightly better. We're all given this information. We have all the information at our fingertips, but they only scored slightly better at 38%. That's it. But remarkably, the third group who wrote down the exact time and location of which their workout would take place, they actually saw themselves doing it, reported. Anybody want to guess how many people reported finished that workout twice a week? Go ahead and put it in the chat, or unmute yourself and answer if you think you might have a guess. Well, it was 91%. So 91% of the participants that completed the task of exercise at least twice a week because they wrote it down. So I can't encourage you highly enough. If you don't have a written plan for your finances this year, we know our motivations and good intentions will only take us so far. So how do we get started? Where do we start? Well, at California Coast, we have a team of financial coaches who help you create a custom plan for yourself. And we hear a lot of excuses. People say, "Oh, I make enough money. I don't need to create a budget." Well, I mean, do you have financial goals? And will that situation last forever? Maybe you're making the income now, but is that going to last, in the future? What happens if you lose your income? A lot of people say, "I'm too busy." Well, I mean, at the same time, we hear these excuses, but you wouldn't cancel a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment. So we encourage people, you work with us as a financial coaches, or find a friend who can help you participate. Meet once a month and go over your financial goals together, and keep each other accountable, but also have some fun rewards. And lastly, oftentimes we find people are not sticking to the actual plan they set up. They said, I did set up a plan, but it didn't work for me, and so I just kind of threw it in the trash. So we're going to figure out how we can overcome those things if you find yourself in any of those boats. So like the first one is to know your resources. There's a lot of resources out there. Again, it's completely free to meet with us. It's a benefit of membership at California Coast. And typically what we do is we list everything out in order of what you need accomplished for the month, and we ask you to track for 1 month. And the other nice thing about that is it's all in one spot. It creates a natural to-do list, and it feels better to complete the list. The second is to be able to articulate and define your goals. If you wouldn't be able to articulate and define your financial goals to your friends and your family, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to bring that to fruition. So it's going to be a plan that you can articulate and you can talk to your friends about on a regular basis, and they can help encourage you along. And the last thing we said, find the right time and place to schedule it. So for example, my wife and I go over our financial plan before the month begins. So come March 1st, at the end of February, we're going to say, okay, this is our income for the month of March. These are our expenses. These are the things we want to do. Maybe we have our daughter's birthday. We have this event, and everything's on a list. And guess what? If it's not on that list, we're not doing it. It goes to the next month, and we can talk about it and put it on the list later. So it's got to be scheduled the right time and place is going to work for you. Does anyone have any questions? Does anybody run into this or finding themselves in this spot right now? They're finding themselves too busy or don't know where to start. If anybody can share, go ahead.
I think yeah, getting pretty busy and like falling off of keeping track, and then like trying to get back on track is a little harder for me.
Yeah. Sophia, thanks for telling us that. I know it's being vulnerable to admit that. And another nice thing, again, why we do this, and it's a benefit of banking with California Coast, is you get to meet with us, and we schedule appointments every 2 weeks. And it's kind of funny, for the first few weeks, I say, block out that time and use my appointment time as your chance to do it. Because they're like, oh, I'm too busy. I didn't get anything done. That's okay. We're going to help you through it the first couple weeks. So they have that appointment with us, and then until they're ready to be on their own. Okay, so number two, common mistake we find is people just not aware of their spending. They're not aware of how much they actually spend. And I always say it's the awareness that leads to the action, but it's the action that leads to success. So again, the first assignment I'm going to give to anyone who meets with us is to track all your expenses for 1 month. So tracking your expenses for 30 days will give you a very specific awareness of where your money goes every month. Was it habits? Do we buy ourselves breakfast or lunch out every day? Or do we buy ourselves coffee in the morning every morning that we're not really aware of those habits? Maybe there's some addictions, maybe shopping, gambling, drinking. And if we can't say no to those things, we can't stop spending on those things. Or maybe it's just, image. We see, I've seen this, somebody mentioned the school kids, you know, the kids at school will have the latest clothes or phone or whatever that is popular, and we feel like we have to buy that for our kids, and our kids keep asking. Or the same way, guilt, if we can't buy those for our kids. Or what if we miss their soccer game or their practice, and we tend to spend more money because we feel guilty. And the last one, not where the communication is, not where spending is, the communication. Maybe we're not communicating our financial goals when we need to with the people maybe we share accounts with or the people we spend money with. So after committing to creating a written plan, we can't just arbitrarily guess at how much we spend. We need to track for at least 1 month. And let's talk about what that looks like. So whether we'll use old-fashioned paper and pencil, we have an Excel checklist or keep a register, it's so important that we know how much we're spending, not just on our expenses every month, like gas, groceries, meals out, but also the things we buy occasionally, like clothes, maybe gifts, maybe auto repairs. So we need to understand how much our income is, that way we can plan exactly how to break it down. Does anyone have any questions, or does anybody track now? I'm kind of curious to know, how do people track? If you don't mind sharing, like you said, put it in the chat or just unmute yourself.
I'm old school. I do it the way my grandma taught me. So it's paper and a little journal.
Awesome. Okay.
It works best for me.
Good. Anyone else? Perfect. Thanks. Okay. So we talked about having the spending and overcoming our habits of the communication, the guilt. How do we stop spending if that's a problem? And really, the only way to do it is to make your why. Why am I doing this? And Rizzy, how difficult is that to write it down? I mean, it's a habit now, but you have a reason for it, right? And we got to make that why so important. We got to dig into it. And I'll give you an example. So my wife and I have been married for 17 years this year, yeah. And we always wanted children. After almost 10 years of marriage, we didn't think we could. We were finally blessed with a first child after 10 years. But then seeing the look on my wife's face, having to go back to work after her maternity leave and waiting so long for that child, that broke our heart. And let's admit it, San Diego is a very expensive place to live. We couldn't afford to do it on one income, but that defined our why. Our goal was now clear, to be able to live a lifestyle or change our lifestyle so we could support our family on one income. And then when we found out she was having a second child, now learning to live on one income so she could stay home with those years where our kids were little was more powerful than any kind of our habits, our image, or any reason to keep up with anybody else's lifestyle. So find that why, what's going to drive you, and dive into it. So how do we do it? We went back to our budget, our plan, and we noticed we're spending, oh, sorry about that, hold on. We're spending so much on groceries and meals out. And we said, okay, this was a huge opportunity that we can transform those poor habits into powerful habits. So I'm going to give you a specific example of exactly how we did that, but it'll be a couple slides from now. So let's just dive into our whys, develop our whys, and know why we are choosing to make that goal. The third thing is setting unrealistic expectations. And I think we tend to do this, and I chose the new year to talk about this and talk about New Year's resolution, because we tend to set unrealistic expectations around the New Year's. So some things, common things I'm hearing right now is people say, I want to pay off $10,000 in debt this year. And that's a great goal. But do they have an extra $833 a month plus interest to pay without making any changes to their life? That's quite a bit of money to come up with. That would also mean you'd have to use the discipline not to use the credit card, not to add to your credit card if you want to pay off $10,000 worth of debt. And could you cut up your credit card today? Time frames is another thing. I'm also working with a teacher right now, and she gets paid 10 months out of the year. And the summer, she wants to go on vacation this summer. But can she pay her bills and not get paid for that summer and still afford to go on vacation? And the last one is rigidity. We're going to talk about all these, but in rigidity, oftentimes here's another one. People say, okay, great, I've got my plan. I plan to spend $200 a paycheck on food, but I miscalculated. I spent 250, or I got invited to a birthday party and I didn't want to say no. So I guess my budget doesn't work and I throw it out the window. So how do we overcome these things? Well, number one, we got to set realistic goals. And when we track all our expenses, our income, what we have to buy, we'll know exactly how much we'll have at the end of the month. I told you, my wife and I, we start at the beginning of the month. We look at, this is going to be our income. These are going to be all expenses. And this is how much we're going to have left over. Well, we might find out, hey, we don't have an extra $833, but maybe we can cut down and we can save $400 a month. So instead of that paying off $10,000 in 1 year, maybe 25 months, which is just over 2 years, is more realistic. So setting up realistic goals. That teacher I talked about who goes on vacation. So we talked about, okay, how much is your expenses? And she's like, okay, it's $4,000 a month is my expenses. So for 2 months, that's going to be $8,000. And then my vacation is going to be $2,000. So she's got to figure out a way to come up with $10,000, but she only gets paid 10 months out of the year. So she simply has to put in her plan that I'm going to save, $1,000 from every paycheck every month. And that's going to go to a separate account that's going to pay for summer when I don't get paid. And the last thing is the rigidity. We talk about that. Okay, I'll tell you, sorry, you might laugh about this, but so my minimum standard, I walk 30 miles a week, and that's about 60,000 steps. So, but I set my plan to 10,000 steps a day, right? So 10,000 steps every single day. But you're like, wait a second, that's 70,000. That's not 60,000, right? Because there's going to be days where I don't feel good. There's going to be days where the kids are sick and I can't go out for a walk. There's going to be days where I'm just too busy. So we got to build in a little bit of wiggle room to give ourselves some grace. So those days that we can't commit to our plan, we don't give up on it. Any questions? Does anybody have anything I'm kind of curious to know if anybody had a story where they either gave up too fast or they found a way around giving up on their plan. Does anyone want to share anything?
I can share real quick again.
Sure.
I would say that I gave up pretty fast. I started maybe last year, sometime during the summer. I asked my family for help and it just didn't go like I was too hard on myself. I took their advice if I were in their position and I wasn't fitting to my unique needs on top of work and kids. So I did give up too fast and now I'm just trying to see take baby steps would be the best thing for some of us.
That's awesome. And Rizzy, do you have those little baby steps written down? Like per week I'll do this, or per month I'll do that. So you're not like, I'm trying to make this huge goal, but hey, if I could just simply do this small thing every day or this small thing every week, that's going to get there. And I can't see the chat, so I don't know if Andres or Sophia can see. I don't want to make sure I'm missing anyone after putting in notes in the chat.
You're good. The chat is good.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andres. Okay, the next one is underestimating our expenses. So this is the story I promised you earlier. So underestimating expenses, gas, groceries, and meals out. Groceries, meals out for sure are the most underestimated expenses. We tend to spend about twice as much as we think we actually do. And we've all seen the prices of going out and groceries. So here's that tip I promised you earlier. So every Wednesday is trash day at our house. So why is this important? Why am I telling you this? It's because it's my job, my habit to clean out the refrigerator on Tuesdays. Then I take the trash out, let's do it Wednesday, and then my wife will make a meal plan for the week based on what we still have to use in the refrigerator. But the most important thing is she'll take that meal plan and she'll put it right on the refrigerator. She'll tape it right there. So there's no excuses. We're not coming home from work. I'm tired. What do you want to eat? I don't know. I'm too tired too. We don't have that decision fatigue. We already have the plan and we know we already have the food in the refrigerator because that's what we planned on making. So I took a look at that list in the morning. If I had to defrost something, then I defrost it before leaving the house. So it's rare that we go out to dinner during the week. And if we do, it's, something special to look forward to, but it's not something that we're not going to change our habits overnight. I wasn't going to be naive to think that we're going to change this overnight. It took time, and I had to pair it with something that's going to happen anyway. Like I said, the trash man's coming, whether I clean up the refrigerator or not. I have to get it done. So if you have an example that you want to do or incorporate, pair it with something that you're going to do anyway. For example, I told you I do the 10,000 steps a day. How do I do that? Well, I didn't have the discipline to get up early every morning. So when I drop my kids off for school, I simply go for a walk around the school, and that's how I get my steps in. So you have to find something that you can pair with a habit you're already doing right now to help you increase your goal. So does anyone want to share a goal that they have, maybe a New Year's resolution they set, or a financial goal that they have, and maybe we can help you pair with something you already do? Does any set any New Year's resolution or any financial goals this year?
I have a goal. My goal is to pay off my debt this year.
Awesome. Okay. And I'm not going to ask you how much, but do you have something in your life that pairs that I'm going to make a payment towards that debt at this interval every time this happens?
Not yet. So my plan is to wait on my tax money
Mhm.
to start off that process of like doing the payments for that.
Wonderful. So Sophia, thank you so much again. Talking finances is never easy for people. So I'm just grateful that you guys are participating. So I'll give you a tip. Let's say, for example, after your tax return and all that, you have $2,500 left on your goal, right? And you can say, well, great, I'm going to make $200 a month and I'm going to pay off that goal. So what I'd encourage you is actually, let's make one small adjustment. And instead of paying $200 a month, which you're going to be just shy of your goal at $2,400, change it to $50 a week. Same thing, $200 a month or $50 a week. But the difference is there's 52 weeks in the year. So instead of ending the goal at $2,400, you'll actually pay off a bigger amount. You'll pay off $2,600. And if something happens during the year, which we know it's going to, where something's going to come up, you can borrow from that goal. You can not make the payment a couple times and jump right back, and you'll still meet your goal by the end of the year. So definitely, I would break it into smaller, bite-sized pieces, like $50 a week instead of $200 a month, and do it the same day. Have it set up automatic payment, or have it tied into something you're going to do every week. That's just a goal for you. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, and just realize there are going to be unexpected expenses come up. I mean, has anybody had we'll talk about this, any medical expenses, any unexpected expenses that you guys have had this year that threw you off your plan?
Yes, definitely. For me, it was our house kind of got messed up due to the flooding.
Oh
So it
no.
was kind of like it's not nothing too bad, thankfully, but so I live with my mom.
Mhm.
So there's three families in the house right now. We're just helping each other. So that was a big setback, not just for me, but my mom as well. So that's one thing that is on the to-do list.
Yeah, hopefully insurance is taking care of it, hopefully.
Through our landlord,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
but it's
Awesome.
still, with how it is, it's our responsibility. It was one of the storage units that we have in the backyard. Yeah,
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 so
yeah. Look at the different types of insurance, like renter's insurance. Sometimes they're very inexpensive. It can help you cover for any kind of disasters like that.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how to overcome the underestimated expenses. I know we gave examples of tracking for 1 month. The other thing you can do is you can open up a separate savings account just for emergencies like that come up. We talked about knowing insurance, knowing deductibles, knowing your options. So when those things happen, not if, but when those things happen, you kind of already have a plan and you know exactly what you want to do. So number 5, not planning for the occasional expenses. So I'm going to stop right here for a minute because I know I'm giving you kind of a long list. I'm asking you to budget. I'm asking you to track. I'm asking you to save. I'm asking you to do a whole lot. And I know this is part of where we get a little overwhelming, and people, when I work with people one-on-one, they're like, okay, this is as much as I can handle. And I give this example of an airplane. And when you take a flight somewhere, think about the last time you took a flight. you leave the airport at a certain time, and then you're going to arrive at your destination at a certain time. But the interesting thing is, when you're on that airplane, it's actually off track most of the time. I don't know if you realize this, but your plane's actually off track the majority of the time. And the pilot will get information from the control tower, and they'll get information from the radios and the headphones. And what they'll do is they'll simply make small adjustments all throughout the flight. You turn a half a degree here, turn a half a degree there. And there's all kinds of, storms or weather pattern or other air traffic that will get them off course. But by just making the small adjustments, they'll eventually get there. So if you're feeling like you're off course with your financial plan, that's okay. That's okay to feel you're off course often. As long as you make small adjustments, you'll eventually get to your destination. So number 5, not planning for occasional expenses. This, again, we talked about this, where almost all the credit card debt comes in, because it's very easy to set up a plan. This is how much I make per month. This is my bills. This is how much I spend on gas, groceries, meals out. But where the plans fall apart is the things that don't happen every month. We're talking about the gifts and holidays, clothes, vacations, household repairs. Almost all that stuff typically goes on credit cards if we don't have that built into our savings plan. So we do need to know exactly how much we're going to spend on those items. And I'll give you another story. It's kind of funny. So I use what's called a gift grid. And the reason I do this is every Christmas, my wife and I would always fight over this because, she's more generous than I am and wants to give everybody a nice gift. And I tell her to stop spending money. So we came up with this gift grid. We write the names of everybody we're going to shop for, and then how much we're going to spend. What is it? Is it birthday? Is it Christmas? Is it Halloween? We have candy and the decorations and the costumes, and it doesn't stop. So we decide at the beginning of the year, is it $30 per person? Is it 50? What is it? And we come up with a number at the beginning of the year. So our number is, I'll tell you, it's $2,500.
Hi guys.
Yeah, go ahead. How you doing? Do you have something like this?
All right, guys.
Oh, how you doing?
Sorry that I'm late.
That's all right. Oh, we're just talking about planning for occasional.
I'm doing good, guys.
Good. We're just talking about planning for occasional expenses. So the other thing you can do is there's something called a 50-30-20 budget, where you spend 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on savings. So those are some big guidelines, but again, by having the written plan, you can easily divide it into a 50-30-20 plan. Okay, so we talked about how to overcome the not having a plan for your occasional expenses. So number 1 is, of course, to track all of your purchases. So understanding those expenses and setting up the separate savings accounts. Rizzy, you were talking earlier about the kids and how it's pretty unpredictable how much it's going to be. I had the same thing. So my kids are 5 and 8 now. They're in kindergarten and 3rd grade. And I couldn't believe how much it was for, yearbooks and school pictures and, kids dances and kids outings and costumes and everything we had to do for school. So I had to set up a separate savings account just for kids' activities. And I put $50 a paycheck, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I was sure glad I had it when the kids activities and yearbooks and those things come up. So think about those things that you're going to have in your life. Maybe it's auto repair, something like that you can set up a small dollar amount every single paycheck or every single week. Okay, now the last common budgeting mistake is going to be the lack of communication. And this is a big one. This is probably the most painful one. This is oftentimes where the guilt and shame hides. So sometimes relationships, trust can be lost. So if we can't learn to stand in our financial truth with our loved ones, history will tend to repeat itself over and over. So if you share expenses with a partner or family member, make sure, like I said, at the beginning of the month, my wife and I always talk about this is what we have coming up. Make sure we're in communication about our financial goals and what we want to accomplish. The other thing I want to mention is make sure you are in communication with your creditors as well. And the reason I say this is oftentimes what we see is people that get themselves in debt and they have trouble getting out of it, or they're having trouble making the minimum payments. As a bank, we don't want our members going through that. We want to help our members, and there's all kinds of things we can do. Maybe we can change the due date. Maybe we can do interest only for a few months, or we can do a skip a payment, because we want to help them succeed too. And from bank's perspective, we don't want to chase people around and try to call them and mail letters. So if you're finding yourselves in that position today where you're struggling to make minimum payments, please contact your financial institution, see which kind of hardship options they have, and can keep those communications open. And for sure, go ahead and schedule an appointment with us. So we've talked about setting a budget. We talked about sticking to a budget, and we talked about achieving your financial goals. There's a few other resources I want to give you. We have a wellness resource called Enrich. You can go to www.calcoastcu.org/enrich. And there's all kinds of tools and courses and videos. It's not just on budgeting. Maybe you want to learn about setting a business or investments or taxes. There's all kinds of financial wellness resources you can use. And if you want to meet with us one-on-one, there is my phone number, Jevon Boyer, my partner. I'm sure many of you talked to Terrelyn. She did the presentation last month. You have our direct phone numbers, our direct email addresses. So please don't hesitate to reach out.